I do wonder if Lakers fans are more aggravated that they were in every game. In fact, 70% of the series, they had the lead.
Well, Danny G said he felt happy about the fact that they just put up a fight. But that's what makes it aggravating from me outside looking in. I was like, you had a chance to win every game.
Listen, as a 49ers fan, Danny G, they lost 2 Super Bowls in the last 5 years to the Chiefs. Both, they were up by double digits in the fourth quarter. I almost feel like I'd rather Mahomes had gone off and beat me by 21.
Covino, when I said that to you last night about putting up a fight, I meant in last night's game. Because you could have easily come in. Nobody's ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA playoffs. So my point was, I'm glad they didn't just mail it in that closeout game. But as far as the rest of the series, it is super frustrating that they had so many leads and just couldn't hang on.
It was a battle at the end of yesterday's game for sure. If you watch the last 2-3 minutes of that game, it was a nail biter. You're like, oh my goodness, the battle. But the Lakers fell short, man. They couldn't finish this. And I know what you're going to say, Rich. Is it the Nuggets were just a better team? The Nuggets won, or did the Lakers blow it?
Well, there's a few layers here. And we said it yesterday when you lose to Mahomes in the NFL. Do you say, oh, man, we blew it, or did Mahomes just win? I look at it like if the Lakers do a few adjustments, you lost. I get it. You lost 4-5 to the defending NBA champs, but you're so close. Like, it's almost frustrating that each game you could argue, well, that was the Lakers game and they blew it. Oh, they let it slip away. There's not one game in that series where you're like, oh, man, they just got their ass whooped. It wasn't the case. So it's like, revamp what? You just couldn't. Each game.
Dwight Howard went public last night saying, hadn't they disassembled that 2020 team and kept some of those big guys, they would have won 3 rings in a row. That was sort of viral.
Oh, Dwight Howard's the answer? Okay, I'm sorry.
I'm not saying Dwight Howard's the answer. He's saying that team that they had would have competed stronger with this team. I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Danny G?
Yesterday I brought his name up along with JaVale McGee. I do think they need some more size to throw some guys in there to tire the Joker out. They don't have the size they had when they won in Orlando.
That was a fun team. Green, Kuzma. That was a solid squad.
Yeah, I just get the sense, though, in a close game, maybe we're just living in the moment because of what they did to the Lakers. But you know what? It's the fourth quarter, and Mahomes has the ball. Or back in the 90s, Yankees had a slim lead, enter Sandman hits, and you're like, it's over. You just get the sense that it's just sort of over. When it was back and forth, I did get that feeling that every time the Lakers scored, I was like, oh, yes. The Nuggets scored. It just seemed like, well, they scored. It felt.
Alex Caruso wouldn't have missed that layup at the end of the game.
It felt like it came very easy.
I'm just
felt
kidding.
like it came very easy to the Nuggets when they were going basket for basket at the end. Like the Lakers were manufacturing 2 points and passing and moving. Meanwhile, the Nuggets just found ways to quick two.
There was one point in the third quarter where I saw some Lakers tugging on their shorts, kind of hunched over a little bit, breathing hard. That elevation does get to players, that don't obviously play there as their home court. And you think about it, whenever you've gone to like your local gym or just outside on a court and you're playing ball, running up and down the court, I don't think NBA players get enough credit, the ones who play a lot of minutes, for all that running you do. And so when you're doing it in that elevation, man, I could understand why sometimes in the third quarter of those games in Denver, the opposition looks so beat.
Well, Lakers put up a fight. They're donezo. We got to congratulate the Nuggets for moving forward. I mean, he came up big. Murray came up big. And they beat the Lakers moving forward.
That elevation is no joke. I mean, look at what it's done to the Colorado Rockies, with home runs, and batting averages. But I even have a story where I went to Red Rocks to do an event in the radio world. And I had to interview a band backstage. I had to walk up and down the stairs of that venue. And I remember thinking, like, dude, how out of shape am I?
Yeah, that's the same as playing basketball.
No, but I'm saying I was winded walking up and down stairs in Denver at high altitudes at Red Rock. So can you imagine?
Of course, yeah.
That added,
the point is, it's noticeable. It really is. So some fun basketball yesterday, and a common theme on our show, just in life. Remember back in the day, let's take it back on a Tuesday. How would you get your jokes? You would get your jokes when you're old dirty uncle would come over and he'd tell you a dirty joke, and you'd debate whether or not you'd pretend to understand it or not in front of your parents. You know what I mean? Like, hey, thanks, Uncle Mario. Thanks for telling me that joke, right? You would just get joke, and then you would share it with your friends at school, or you'd buy a dirty joke book at school, right?
Which is funny to think about, right?
At the little book fair or something like that. Now we get our jokes from memes, for the most part, because who's telling jokes? Who's telling jokes? Nobody. We get them from memes. Our punchlines are in meme form.
You know what's proof of this?
And a lot of times, so are the headlines that we report.
What's proof of this is on that dumb reality show, The Circle.
Yeah.
They were all asked to tell a joke.
They didn't know any.
And no, everyone's like,
it's the lost art of telling a joke.
Everyone knew someone. Everyone knew someone.
Anytime your grandpappy or an uncle came over or a cousin came over, they would share some joke with you. And you're like, yeah. It was probably some racist joke back in the day. And you loved it. And you shared it. That's a lost art because we get our humor and our jokes from memes. And like I said, here on this show, you also get your news, courtesy of memes. And this meme says, it's a picture of LeBron, KD, and Curry, right? For the first time in forever, for the first time since 2005, the second round of the playoffs won't have LeBron, KD, or Curry. Now, this meme is true, as far as I know.
Where's the punchline? I thought
no, it's not a joke. I said we get our news in the same way.
News and jokes.
News and jokes in meme form. And you're like, wow, that's pretty wild. First time since 2005? Is this the end of an era?
Well, Charles Barkley, who, famously 2 nights ago said, hindsight's whatever, had another doozy yesterday. Listen to Sir Charles last night after the game.
Between Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, these young boys are...
Wembanyama.
Well, he's not in that conversation
He's getting there.
He ain't there. They won 12 games. Between those young guys, man, they're not knocking on the door. They're kicking the door down. It's a pleasure to watch.
It's a new generation.
Yeah, you see it in football. We've experienced it the past, 5-6 years with the changing of the guard. Like, all the guys we knew for so long playing QB, like, wow, they're all gone. Look at all these new faces.
Just like that. It was like Manning.
Just like this.
Brady, Manning, Breeze, all the faces. Aaron Rodgers still hanging in there. But there was
It's almost like how many generations of QBs have you lived through at this point?
No, you lived through
right?
I'd like to say I'm 2 generations of QBs deep.
2 generations.
I look at generation 1. If you're roughly 40ish,
right.
You lived through Montana,
Young.
Elway, Bernie Kosar, Phil Simms, like that 80th Jim Plunkett.
Right.
Then you lived through the Manning, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, that generation. Am I missing it, or do you feel like they go back to back?
It feels like back to back. It's like the oldies radio stations that we hear that say we play the best of 70s, 80s, 90s, and today.
And
like today's 30
it's
years.
The Joe Burrows of the world and
Mahomes,
and
Lamar
Lawrence,
Jackson.
all these guys, right? Now, with the NBA, are we starting to see that same sort of thing? It happens, changing of the guard. And you heard Charles Barkley and what he had to say about it. For the first time since 2005, second-round playoffs won't include the biggest names that we've been talking about for the past 10, 15-plus years.
Well, you and I
LeBron, KD, and Curry.
You and I joked about how one of them didn't even make it out of the play-in round.
Right.
So, you're right. KD, LeBron, Steph.
So,
out.
Again, that takes away – well, it depends how you look at it. Hey, changing of the guard, like we said, that's exciting. Or like, man, it's not the same without these guys. I'm looking at it that way because, to me, they represent the playoffs, right? I want to see KD. I want to see Curry. I want to see LeBron. At least one of them, some of them, if not all of them. But, again, it's evolution, baby. But based on that, what are some other things that come to mind that just weren't the same without them? I'll give you an example. All right?
I have a list.
So I'm not saying the playoffs aren't going to be dope because they've been dope. And I think they'll continue to be dope. And we'll be more familiar with these young players. We'll see what they do in these big moments on these big stages, especially without these old dudes.
You know what? You're seeing this now
But it won't
outside
be
the
the
NBA?
same.
Outside the NBA, you're seeing this a lot with star pitchers in Major League Baseball. The ones that remain are the tail end of a generation, whether it be Kershaw hanging in there, Verlander, Scherzer. There's a few guys hanging on, still trying to dominate at the end of their career, but once they're out, Garrett Cole's like the only guy that's been around for a minute.
And that doesn't mean it's not good. It just isn't the same, okay? So based on that, I'll give you an example, and then we'll chop it up. And we'll take your phone calls at 877-99 on Fox, at Covino and Rich, at Fox Sports Radio. I remember in the early 2000s, 2000 teens maybe, Rich, we'd come back Monday, do our radio show on Sirius XM. We'd be all pumped about Homeland and how great it was. Bro, did you watch Homeland, dude?
Yeah, it was good.
Homeland for a few seasons was like, yo.
One season.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there was some trinkle and trickle of the character. You're like, yo, man, this show is good. Once Damian Lewis was not on that show anymore, I got to tell you, I stopped tuning in because it wasn't the same. I'm not saying it wasn't good. I'm not saying people didn't care. I'm saying I didn't care the same way. I did not. I didn't realize that the reason I was tuning in and glued and intrigued was Damian Lewis. But once he was not on it, I'm like, I don't care as much.
One show that was never the same for me was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air once they changed Aunt Viv.
No, for real?
Yeah, man. I'm like, that is not Aunt Viv. I could never get it.
You couldn't get past that?
I couldn't get past it. I mean, I still loved the show, but it bothered me the whole time.
So the question is here. The question is not the same without him. What's your example? Now, you did bring up Homeland.
Yeah.
Claire Danes and Mandy Patinkin, they did like 100 episodes of that show. Damian Lewis, I thought it was one. I think it was 2 seasons.
And then, like I said, there was a resurgence or something of the character. Or maybe I'm thinking of Billions that he was on. But Damian Lewis, I'm not saying I'm some huge fan, but the character and the dynamic he brought to that show is what had me tuning in. When he wasn't on, I just didn't care as much.
Not the same.
It wasn't the same.
It's not the same without him.
What are some other examples? It could be anything.
I brought up one yesterday off the air with you guys. We were joking about, for some reason, Spot brought up Police Academy, and I said I stopped watching when Gutenberg was out. When Steve Gutenberg left Police Academy, there were like 6 others. It's like Jaws without Roy Scheider.
Ooh.
After Jaws 2, smile, you son of a.
Are you kidding me? I saw, when I was a kid, I saw Jaws 3 in 3D, and I remember being so pumped about it because I got to wear those cool 3D glasses. I remember falling asleep. That movie was so bad.
Jaws 3 was awful, and Jaws 4, The Revenge. Get out of here. Jaws 1 and 2.
Some things are just synonymous with that thing, just like LeBron, KD, and Curry are synonymous with the playoffs, man. You want one of those dudes involved somehow, and they're not.
Yeah.
It's not the same
without
him.
This is like The Office when Steve Carell was no longer on it.
Dude,
please, no.
I love.
I was just about to bring that up. No. Had the button ready.
Love Will Ferrell, but you're right.
There maybe is an adjustment too, right? Like maybe it's just an adjustment. You get used to it, but it's just not the same. What else comes to mind? 877-99 on Fox, at Covino and Rich on social media if you can't call in, if you're at the office or something. 877-99 on Fox. What are some other examples? I think that Gutenberg one is dead on. Or as the kiddies say, dead ass.
I thought the other one I said
I didn't watch any of those.
Well, listen, Gutenberg was Police Academy.
Right. I agree.
I really liked Police Academy 5, though.
Get out of here.
What is that? Assignment Miami Beach?
Remember where Lassard got kidnapped and they had to find him? It was the nephew.
You know why? I didn't watch without Gutenberg.
The Goots. No Goots, no watch.
Yeah, I'm serious.
All right, Police
To me,
Academy.
It's not even Police Academy without
Citizens
it.
on patrol.
Yep. I stopped.
Oh,
I
that
guess
was
at
4, right? Yeah. Citizens
Yeah.
on Patrol. Homeland, Police Academy. You guys said Steve Carell in The Office. I have one that this sort of goes along with, even though it's a TV show, it goes along with generations, right? Like, all right, for instance, you know how you could argue the NBA was bigger and better than ever in the late 80s, early 90s? MJ, Bird, Magic. I'm talking like Dream Team, Karl Malone, Barkley. And then, before the next generation of stars, there was a little down period where, unless you were down with Kobe or Shaq, like Allen Iverson, like there was a little down period, right? We could agree? I think that about American Idol. If you watch that show, Paula...
without Dunkelman,
without that guy? No, but everyone loves Simon Cowell, Paul Abdul, and Randy Jackson.
Once they voted off Bo Bice, I was done.
No, but those three judges were synonymous with that show. Simon Cowell, Paul and Randy. The little pitchy dog. Then they had like Steven Tyler, J-Lo, all these random people. Then they finally got their next generation, which works. Lionel Richie, Katy Perry, and Luke Bryan.
So it came back.
It came back, but it wasn't the same for a while.
There was an adjustment period,
You had to
right?
find the new stars.
Right. So that's what we're going through now without the big stars in the playoffs. And that doesn't mean the playoffs lack star power. It's just not the same. It's not the ones we're used to. It's not the big names.
And you're about to have no Giannis possibly entering the next round also because he's hurt. But so no Steph, no KD, no LeBron for the first time since 2005. We're talking almost 20 years.
Dude,
19 years?
That's a long run.
19 years without three of the biggest names in the NBA not in the postseason after the first round?
I have some other sport examples. Maybe a team got rid of your favorite player and they were never the same for you. I don't know. Maybe it's a show. Maybe it's a restaurant.
I got one. I mean, because he was a lunatic, he sort of did it to himself, but they tried to revamp it. They tried to make it good. I'm not a hater of Ashton Kutcher, but 2.5 Men minus Charlie Sheen was like, is it really 2.5 Men?
Yeah,
they tried.
They tried.
The worst attempt. I don't know how the show's still in the air. The Connors without Roseanne. Roseanne gets canceled, and they're like, yeah, just keep it with the ancillary characters.
Dude, that's a great example, and I'm sure the show was good, right? Because it's on for a reason.
I will never watch without Roseanne.
When she came back to reboot that show, I'm like, you know what? I was never that big into Roseanne, but I'm tuning in. The second she wasn't involved anymore,
what did she do?
Tuning out.
What did she do wrong again? I don't remember.
She did some racial insensitivity.
She got extra political or something.
Gotcha.
I don't know.
remember.
Said something that
I know she's had a couple of rounds of being controversial.
She's Seinfeld,
extremely outspoken.
As Seinfeld would say, comedy. The extreme left has ruined it.
Seinfeld has said that just recently.
Just yesterday.
I'll give you one, and you guys could think about your own examples. Light them up. Light them up. Like Scott Farrell used to say, shake it up. Light it up. Light up the phones at 877-99 on Fox. One could say that when the Mike Tyson era ended, you tuned out of boxing for a long time. And maybe you're tuning back now, but everybody was glued to that Chavez-Tyson era, right? And once the Klitschko's ran the heavyweight division for all those years, they were unbeatable. It was a little boring. You stopped tuning in because it does matter what's happening in the heavyweight division. That builds the excitement for the rest of the divisions. So once Fury got into the mix and all these other names got into the mix again, you're like, oh, yeah, these guys are kind of cool. And then you got into these 140-pounders. But once that Tyson era ended, he was like the main character. A lot of people tuned out.